What up? Yes, we have a segment that we call "This is not live." So this is not live. We're literally outside somewhere else. Yeah. The funny part is I didn't know which camera to look at. There's a camera over there.
Behind you.
Okay. Anyway, dude. So with this champion who's making his rounds around the world right now, kind of. more or less.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That's very kind. Champion.
Champion. That's a line, old school line that I used to use. It's like yeah. Dude.
I like it.
It's a champion. So Nadir, tell me about Beni.Space. What's the whole?
Yeah, so I think basically this story is quite common now. I was working, I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
I was a producer. I was working at Vice for a little bit. I was working at some other media startups, and then it kind of got to me where I kind of felt like I really want to start something for myself, something that was important to me. So about 14 months ago, I left my job, left everything, and started a YouTube channel. And the idea behind the YouTube channel was, how can I fully represent people like me? I was a young brown boy, born and raised in London, who felt like he was misrepresented by mainstream media. I never had like role models to look up to when I was growing up. How could I have a space that kind of traveled around the world and met young people like myself, this global youth generation, who are doing exceptional things, exceptionally creative things, inspirational things, and have a young person like me feel like he was represented, or he or she was represented, or feel inspired by other young people who do incredible things. And that was the goal, and it started 14 months ago, and it's just been a roller coaster of emotions since then.
It's great. With just that statement, I've got a few questions for you, but let's start off with the first thing, because you said, misrepresented and, growing up and stuff because of everything. How are you not messed up? Because life, when it throws you that, you've got two choices: either triumph from it,
exactly,
or just go down the path and you think I'm like this, fine, I'll be like this.
Right, and I think that's the case for a lot of my friends, right? So I grew up in a very rundown neighborhood. It was quite a rough neighborhood, and we didn't have anything to look up to, right?
Yeah.
All we saw for inspiration was the kind of crappy neighborhood around us, right? So when that's your reality and that's the boundary of your imagination, then you don't aspire to be anything bigger, right? So the idea behind this YouTube channel was to open the minds of people growing up in this very sheltered space, and be like, yo, look, you can be bigger, you can be better, expect more from yourself. So that was the general kind of idea and inspiration on a top level. Because there are people out there really breaking glass ceilings, and that was important for me to show, because you don't see that in everyday.
But you do realize you're breaking the status quo, right? It's like the bigger people wouldn't want you to spread this news that, there are different kinds of things.
Yeah, I like to think so. I mean, I still think there's a long way for me to go. I think even in the short amount of time that I started, it's been some really kind of avant-garde, weird ways of representing people that have never been represented in that way, and that I'm grateful for. But I think one of the most amazing things about traveling the way that I do is that I'm a London boy, right? Born and raised. Of course, I have roots from this part of the world, but I'll travel to X country. I'll tell people what my inspiration and my motivations are. And young people from a completely different world, Malaysia, for example, young people here will vibe with exactly what I'm trying to do. And that I love. The fact that I can come here, I can start meeting young people doing interesting things and work and collaborate with them. Because that feeling of misrepresentation or frustration with the status quo,
it's worldwide.
It's equal, it's worldwide. And I think that's been the best thing, connecting with people.
When you wanted to do this, you dropped a stable life. Normal work and blah, blah, blah. Did your parents freak out?
You think that, right? So
genuinely they go are you crazy? Going to a country, no, this country is dangerous, don't go there.
So generally I would say my parents thankfully were rebellious in their own generation. So they understood the kind of need for me to do what I needed to do. My aunties and uncles were so I used to work at the UN before. That was kind of my thing, and I thought, okay, my whole family was very proud of me. I'd made it, right? So then when I kind of left that, and then my aunties and uncle on Raya, they would ask so what are you doing now in your life? It's I quit my full-time job. They're like, okay, what are you doing now? They're like, I would tell them I'm making YouTube videos now. And I think the general consensus was, what the frick? So they kind of thought I was making cat videos and kind of trying stuff.
Pranks and stuff like that, which is common.
But that's been part of it. Part of it's been telling our people from our kind of backgrounds that you can build incredible careers and do interesting things that mean something to you, but also succeed in them in this creative industry. And that's important to show as well, because not many people, I don't know, in my London context, not many people from brown, black backgrounds are doing creative things. Because our priority was food on the table. but survive, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset is completely different.
Right.
So it's also about telling young people, look, go chase your passions if you're good at it.
Yeah.
You will also bring the money in, and you can do.
Eventually, like,
Eventually,
bring the money
yeah.
in. No, but talking about how the hell are you supporting yourself doing all this?
So I was very fortunate in the sense that I started.
Yeah.
I think my first two videos went spread quite worldwide. They went like viral, and then the third one kind of went semi-viral. And then YouTube saw some of my videos. They saw what I was trying to do, and it was a bit different from what was happening already.
Yeah.
So YouTube as a platform really wanted young creators to use the platform to make videos of substance, things that meant something to young people, right? Because the general things on YouTube now are just bullshit, right? So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were really happy, and then they had this initiative where they were sponsoring young creators with potential to go big. So they sponsored me, and now I have I work with them to create content.
Awesome.
But the idea is that I work with other progressive brands. And I basically pitch them like, yo, like I'm this cool up and coming YouTube channel. I have an audience that's really like modern and progressive and worldwide and cool, bunny fingers. Do you want to work on something together? And then they provide me some sponsorship, and then we make content together.
The question is, your videos went viral, the first two. Yeah. Nowadays, most things that go viral is either a prank or something wicked or mean or stupid or embarrassing or all the negatives. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people don't tend to share positive or good or stuff like that. So how the hell do you think you managed to break through?
It's super tough. Like, I have some friends also who try to do this with their own YouTube channels, and we always have this discussion. I think it's about retraining the viewer subconscious, right? Because the outrageous surprises us, right? Or the inappropriate amuses us. So I think a lot of our work is about retraining the masses about what to appreciate when they view online. I don't think that young people are not interested in meaningful things.
Right.
I think actually young people, ironically, are very interested. They're very emotionally interested in topics of meaning.
Right.
The challenge for us as creators or people who make content is that how do you structure that stuff to be relevant to these young people? So it's not about what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
So a lot of the work that I've been doing is realizing that actually young people don't like long videos like our older generation did. Sorry, that just totally hit your camera.
Okay. I just moved a bit. It's okay.
Cool. So young people don't like longer format videos.
Right.
They like it to be structured in a certain way. So as content creators, you have to be creative in how you package the content. That's our challenge, right?
Right.
So actually, if you do have something of meaning and you package it in the right way, young people will share it. Young people are incredibly, let's not patronize them or condescend them.
Right.
Young people, this generation, are actually very politically interested, emotionally interested, and it's just about our responsibility as creators is to package the content in the right way for them.
Right. Okay. Now when you go back to young people, the older folks like to say young people give up easy.
Yeah.
Is that a fact or?
I think it's true.
Through what you've seen.
Sorry, spat in your
face.
face.
No, true. It's all good. Through what you've seen, I mean, you're speaking to so many people around the world.
Yeah.
Do they give up easy?
I do think generally there is a problem, and I like to call it this Tinder generation, right?
Right.
And basically what there's...
Swipe left, swipe right.
Exactly, right. And I think it's not only in a romantic context that applies to all of us, but like, let's take dating, for example, right?
Yeah, okay.
What happens in a kind of Tinder romantic context is that you have a profile of someone, you see it in about 2 seconds, and in that moment, you have to make a decision whether you want to swipe left or you want to swipe right.
Yep.
But you make that decision so easily because you know that the next slide will be another girl that you can make a decision for, right? So there's a surplus of choice that you always think the grass is always greener on the other side. And I think that mentality has kind of like trickled down to other aspects of our lives, be it careers, be it like passions, be it like other things like that.
True.
So that mentality is really crippling our generation.
And it's scary because, like you said, because I try something, I like it, I want to try it, and it doesn't kind of work out for me, I'm going to swipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it left or right?
Yeah. Even food, we have like food delivery apps, right?
Yeah.
So like you always like, you just got a surplus of choice in your phone, in your handheld phone, that like no decision has become worthwhile. In a sense, it's just momentary kind of thing.
But how can creators help that out? Because it's, now look, there are so many huge creators. Okay, some I have so much respect for because of what they're trying to do and their messages and the way they create their shows. Some I just can't. But the scary part is the people who I can't handle are the ones that are blowing up.
Yeah, it's true. It's annoying.
And how can that change? Can it change in this generation? Can the generation slightly wake up and go, you know what? Let's look for content that actually means shit rather than.
I think so. I completely agree with you. I feel the exact same frustration. What I've realized now, working in this kind of industry for a while now, is that social media isn't new anymore. It's not novel anymore.
Yeah.
Young people are used to it. They're used to the power of influencers, etc. I think now what the new phase has been is forget the millions of the influencers with millions of followers. Now people are talking about the rise of the micro-influencer, right? So you're talking about not the millions, you're talking about under 100,000, you're talking about people who might have like 20,000 to 50,000. These people are considered like micro-influencers. Now, even when I talk to brands or people who like pay these influencers, especially in a European context, they're more likely now to invest in these micro-influencers because they're more tapped into their audience and their community.
Right.
Whereas the guy with millions is become a brand in itself, doesn't really know what's happening on the ground.
Right.
So these micro-influencers, because they don't actually monetize their content to the same extent, are a lot more engaged, a lot more empathetic with their audiences, a lot more relatable. So what I would like to see is these micro-influencers who are like influential within their own communities working together on things that are meaningful and changing like the kind of audience from the ground up. So like even with my channel, I don't really work with huge influencers, right? Like a lot of it's been with like up and coming or those micro-influencers like I said, because these people have real influence in their communities. So if you had like 10 people who had like 10 to 15,000 followers, bring them together and you create some sort of collaborative project, I guarantee you'll see more effects on the grounds than you would if you worked with like a person with like millions and millions.
You're talking about micro-influencers and people that you've met up. I want to know, how the heck did you find? Do you have a huge team behind you looking for these people? Because some of the people you find, like the ones in I'm like, wait a minute, I've been here 42 years, and how can I have not heard about them?
Yeah, so I think I think if you want to do what I do, I think I'm very good. So I'm not very talented. I don't think I'm very talented. I'm not the best videographer. I'm definitely not the best photographer or producer. But I think one thing that I do very well is that I'm quite easy to talk to. I'm sociable, and I put myself out there a lot. So what happens as a result of being quite sociable is that you do meet a lot of people. So like when I started my platform, I knew I had this huge personal network of people that are doing incredible things. I just want to capture that. So I would say me being sociable and putting myself out there has helped that a lot. So a lot of young people now, they come up to me and they're like,
hey, can I be on your thing?
Not even that. They'll come up to me like, oh, what camera do you use, bro? Or what are your technical skills? And when I'm at these workshops, I tell them, look, like forget the technical skills. They'll come with time, right? But work on your social skills, right? Because that's the things that opens doors. People remember you if you're a nice guy, if you're endearing, or they feel like they connected with you in some sort of way. But if you have the biggest camera on the road, people will just be like, it's a big camera. But if you're someone with a camera that is like able to connect with someone on a level,
with an iPhone, if you can connect,
you were telling me you started your show on your
yes, I am on the iPhone.
But that's key, right? The fact that like it doesn't take the biggest bazooka in town to like cause.
I agree because like you said, one thing you're addressing a lot of young people. You got to get them to engage in conversation. They tend to just throw their opinions and walk away because that's what social media is. I see something, I throw my opinion, I'm done. I don't have to have a conversation about it.
But that's you were telling me that your show is about like kind of encouraging young Malaysians to be like, how can we like conversate despite our differences?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. No, because I believe conversation allows us to grow. Before you set on your journey, you had your point of view and your image of what you think youths are, and you wanted to find like-minded people. But now, because of your conversations with people, you go, okay, the world is bigger this way. My something that I thought was wrong before could be right for someone else, but even though I don't fit it, but it's no longer wrong. It's more of a not for me. So that is what I want
people to realize,
Yes.
But I tell you what's been interesting, and I'd love to talk to you about this actually, because like I'm a London diaspora. I'm a minority in a London context, right? But the reason I love coming to KL is because I feel like I'm part of a majority, right? I'm not that brown kid in school anymore, right? I'm one of many other Asians who are living in a very diverse city. So for me, Malaysia has this kind of like draw to me. I love it. I love coming here. I come here often. I have family here, so like it means something to me. But every time I'm here, Malaysians and KL people are like, why do you want to come back to KL, bro? Like, London's like the place where we want to be,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's like kind of this warped mentality where young KL people, young people would like to be in London, and me, I'm trying to be here.
Dude,
right?
it's a warped mentality because of what you see in social media, is what is portrayed here. You have neo-Nazis here, skinheads here, and I'm going, do you realize what you're doing? You're the first they'll go after if they rise up, you know, but
Like,
they are like,
wait, like white neo-Nazis?
no.
As in like brown
Yes.
versions of neo-Nazis?
I'm not joking. There are
Like-
people calling themselves skinheads and and because they believe in
really
their ideology. They are, dude. And like, anarchy, yes, rebels. But they don't understand the whole thing. They like the image of it, but they don't go deep. That's the scary part about the younger people now. They just see the image and just take the image rather than go deep and go, that's not for me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's the scary part about information. But anyway, I wish I could sit longer, but we don't. Yeah, let's stop, dude. But anyway, once again, we're gonna put up the links of how people can find you and stuff like that. But
Thanks,
how do people get in touch with you? Just say like, hey, I've got a story to tell, and or maybe I wanted your opinion in it. You're open to conversations. With
Yeah,
people?
100%. I think like I'm very responsive on my Instagram. I think that's the easiest thing to like contact me on. But like, if you do feel like there's something that we can vibe or collaborate with, I'm all ears, because I think my channel is so dependent on people telling me these stories.
Right.
So like, I'll read something and be like, whoa, that's really inspirational. Let's do something about it.
Right.
And yeah, if it connects, then it connects. But I'm pretty easy to get in touch with.
Continue telling the stories, dude.
Thanks, man.
And then if you
Appreciate
need, if you've got space in your luggage that you can hide in, I'm coming.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you for the time.
Ciao.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Is that all right?
Yeah, that was good. Like I said,